Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about my week number 9 news roundup, as well as explaining how that NFL news correlates to the 2021 fantasy football season. We'll begin today's video by breaking down the news about Aaron Rodgers having COVID and not being able to be the starting quarterback for the team up against the Kansas City Chiefs this week. How does that affect the Green Bay Packers team as a whole, how it relates to fantasy football, as well as discussing what you should do if Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback of your fantasy team. Which way should you look to pivot? Is that picking up Jordan Love or looking to a quarterback from another NFL team? In doing so, we'll be breaking down my top tier quarterback streaming options of the week. Even if you don't have Aaron Rodgers, this is going to be information that is very relevant to your fantasy football team, as well as at the end of the video discussing the Michael Thomas injury news. But before we can get into things, I would like to ask, if you are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, to please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure to leave a like on today's video. It would help us out a ton. And if you'd like to follow me on Twitter, please do so at NotoriousFNTSY. So without further ado, let's get into it. We begin with the Aaron Rodgers news. So Aaron Rodgers has COVID and will be missing Sunday's game up against the Kansas City Chiefs. So where are we going to look to pivot in this scenario? First, we'll look to the most obvious pivot, his teammate Jordan Love. Jordan Love has yet to start an NFL game since he was drafted in the 2020 NFL draft, but he did see some action earlier on this season up against the New Orleans Saints. The reason why he got in was not because they were blowing the Saints out, but because of the exact opposite scenario. Aaron Rodgers looked deflated in that game, so they ended up pulling Aaron Rodgers and a lot of the starters at the end of that game in week number 1, and Jordan Love ended up getting some playing time. In that game, he had 5 completions on 7 attempts for 68 yards, 1 yard off of being very nice with 69 in that game. So a pretty solid game, but just 7 attempts isn't really going to tell us how good that Jordan Love is going to play this week up against the Kansas City Chiefs. When looking towards the preseason this year, he had 24 completions on 35 attempts in 2 games, which is a 68.6 completion percentage. He also threw for 271 passing yards and 1 touchdown, as well as an interception in those 2 preseason games. With him going up against the Kansas City Chiefs this week, this should be a cupcake matchup for his first ever start in the NFL. It appears that Davante Adams is going to be there, and it appears that the wide receiver core there outside of Davante Adams is just about fine. They also have Aaron Jones as well as A.J. Dillon to kind of be those safety nets for him. They will be without Robert Tonyan for the rest of the season, but I do believe in this game, since they are playing up against the Kansas City Chiefs, this is kind of a layup for Mr. Jordan Love. I don't expect him to have some type of crazy game like Mike White had last week up against the Cincinnati Bengals, where we see Jordan Love throw for like 400 fucking yards or something crazy, but I do expect him to be a reliable fantasy option on the week. Definitely not a guy that I'm projecting to finish inside of the top 10 or the top 5 or something like that, but I wouldn't be surprised if he was a top 12 quarterback on the week. Now we're going to go ahead and look at the other quarterbacks outside of the Green Bay Packers in case you maybe want to look for a safer option. So we will begin with Taysom Hill, quarterback of the New Orleans Saints. With famous Jameis Winston tearing his ACL last week, we should see Taysom Hill as the starting quarterback this week up against the Atlanta Falcons, as long as there are no setbacks bearing his concussion, because Taysom Hill is currently dealing with a concussion, but it is believed that at least Sean Payton is saying that he thinks that Taysom Hill will be the starting quarterback up against the Atlanta Falcons, and that's the way I would lean right now. Since Jameis was the starter this season, we will have to go ahead and look to last year to see Taysom Hill's last start, which was up against the Eagles in week number 14, during that time when Drew Brees was banged up. In that game, he went 28 of 38 for 291 passing yards and 2 touchdowns and 1 interception, as well as having 5 rushes for 33 yards. Now, Taysom Hill is one of those key players, one of those key quarterbacks that just proves that you don't have to be some great NFL quarterback to be good for fantasy football. There is this term that a lot of people bring up called the Konami quarterback, meaning that the rushing yards that a quarterback can get basically breaks fantasy football, because it is so easy to acquire points running the ball as a quarterback. All it takes to get 1 point is 10 rushing yards, but it takes 25 passing yards in a majority of leagues to get 1 point. So the rushing quarterbacks are basically broken. And Taysom Hill is the perfect example of that, because even when he doesn't have a great day passing the ball, maybe he'll throw 2 interceptions, he's still going to run for a bunch of yards, which will save your fantasy day. So I think especially with going up against the Atlanta Falcons, Taysom Hill should be a top-tier streaming option on the week, as I discussed him in the waiver wire video earlier on in the week. Next up, we'll look to Tua Tagovailoa, quarterback of the Miami Dolphins, who is facing the Houston Texans. Now, the Miami Dolphins haven't been very good, but they have been a very sneaky pass-heavy team in the NFL with Tua Tagovailoa under center. Last week, Tua struggled up against the Bills, but who really expected him to look good in that game up against such a tough pass defense? He had 21 completions on 39 targets for 205 yards and an interception, as well as rushing 4 times for 10 yards and a touchdown in that game. While the Miami Dolphins offense is far from what I expected as a Dolphins fan and far from what a majority of people would have thought going into the season, they just really aren't that good. But with that said, they still have a lot of weapons. They still have Devontae Parker, they still have Mike Gesicki, and they still have Jalen Waddle. Now, Will Fuller is nowhere to be found. That guy basically stole $10 million from the Miami Dolphins. But at the end of the day, those 3 players alone are valuable for the Miami Dolphins. And I think going up against the Houston Texans, this is just such a safe matchup to stream up against. So I am very much in favor of starting Tua Tagovailoa this week. But before we get on in to the next streaming quarterback option, I'd like to let you guys know that we have partnered with Yahoo Fantasy this NFL season to bring you guys an offer that is almost too good to be true. Thanks to our partnership with Yahoo, we have an exclusive deal that gets you guys 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. You heard that right, 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. To qualify, you need to be new to Yahoo, sign up for an account via the link in the video description down below, deposit, and play. That's it. Yahoo will send us your name after you play in your first paid contest, and we'll reach out to you via email with your coupon. If you would like immediate access because you want to play today, that's okay as well. All you got to do is email support@awesemo.com. Again, support@awesemo.com, and we'll get you set up immediately. Just to emphasize, this offer is for new Yahoo users only. If you're already a Yahoo user, then you will not be eligible for this promo. Once you're signed up, you can claim $10 of free contest entry credit via the Yahoo 10 link in the description down below, which you can use to enter contests today. With your 2 free months of Awesemo Plus Platinum, you'll have access to our tools and projections specifically designed for Yahoo DFS to help you win big. So go ahead, take advantage, and join Yahoo today. Again, the links to all of that are down below in the description. Next quarterback and the final quarterback we're going to be discussing in today's video that you may want to stream for Aaron Rodgers or just stream in general. There are tons of bye weeks this week. Is Carson Wentz, quarterback of the Indianapolis Colts, going up against the Jumbo Jets on Thursday Night Football. Carson Wentz has been a pleasant surprise this season, as he's looking more like the vintage 2017 Carson Wentz. Now, I understand when you normally refer to something as vintage, it's very old, like fucking Tom Brady, but in my opinion, the 2017 Carson Wentz seemed like it was long gone until this year for the Indianapolis Colts. The matchup this week up against the Jets is obviously delightful. It's a chef's kiss matchup, even though the Cincinnati Bengals kind of failed to capitalize on that beautiful matchup last week. In week number 8 up against the Titans, Carson Wentz had 27 completions on 51 attempts for 231 yards and 3 touchdowns, as well as having 2 INTs in that game. He also had 11 rushing yards in that matchup. This week, he goes up against the Jets. I really do feel like the Cincinnati Bengals were in a classic look-ahead game. They were looking ahead. They were looking past the Jets because, hey, it should be easy to go out there and absolutely ramsack, absolutely beat the shit out of the Jets defense. They just looked over them, and the Jets pummeled them. They pulverized them. But I believe the Indianapolis Colts and Carson Wentz will very much be awake for this game. They're not going to look over the Jets because they just saw what happened to the Bengals. So I do believe that Carson Wentz will have a fine game in this matchup. Kind of backtracking to the main point of this video, we got to discuss what Jordan Love being the starting quarterback means to this offense. In my opinion, I don't think this really has all that much effect on Aaron Jones or A.J. Dillon. I don't think this has that much of an effect on Davante Adams. Now, obviously, the game is going to go different. This is not going to be a scenario where the Green Bay Packers, in my opinion, are able to lay the pipe like they are a plumber up against the Kansas City Chiefs, because if Aaron Rodgers was under center, going up against such a soft serve, such a terrible defense in the Kansas City Chiefs, you would have expected the Packers to pulverize them. meaning that they're going to be up by a lot, and maybe we see a lot more Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon down the stretch. But even with that said, I think that since Jordan Love is such a young quarterback, this is his first NFL start, that he's going to look to make the safe plays, look to dump the ball off to A.J. Dillon, looking to dump the ball off to Aaron Jones. I am still very confident in playing Aaron Jones this week up against the Kansas City Chiefs. I could still see him being one of the top 5, one of the top 3 running backs in fantasy football. A.J. Dillon is still a player that I'm not overly excited about, but we will be seeing him get some work in this game. For Davante Adams, you're still going to fucking play him, even if it is a little bit worrisome because Jordan Love is the quarterback. Typically, when you have a wide receiver at the skill set, at the caliber of Davante Adams, who is one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, if not the best wide receiver in the NFL, you're going to play him even if I was the starting quarterback of the team. So don't worry about that. Then you have the ancillary wide receivers. So those guys like Randall Cobb, the other guys, I'm going to be honest, I don't really want to play them in this situation. I don't really want to play them ever because it seems like every single week it's another one of those guys that ends up balling out, and then basically you just want to start Adams, and every other week it's someone different. So when it comes to the other wide receivers on the team, I would definitely look to fade them, whether it's Jordan Love or not. Obviously this week it will be Jordan Love up against the Kansas City Chiefs, so I wouldn't panic all that much if you have any of the other star-studded options for the Green Bay Packers offense. So overall, I do believe that Jordan Love is a fine streaming option, but I'd probably look to Taysom Hill or Tua Tagovailoa over Jordan Love. I think that I would definitely play Jordan Love, though, over Carson Wentz, because I think there is kind of a scenario where the Indianapolis Colts just run the rock down the Jets' throat, and we don't see as much passing volume from Carson Wentz. So final topic here is Michael Thomas. So Michael Thomas is now out for the season after sustaining a completely new ankle injury. Does anyone believe that? Does anyone believe that Michael Thomas is hurt? Slant man? Come on. I don't think he's hurt again. I think he just doesn't want to play. He saw Jameis is gone. He said, fuck it. I'm not playing with Taysom Hill. So that's how it is. It is what it is. Michael Thomas isn't going to play this season, so you cut him. There's nothing else really to talk about because Michael Thomas hasn't even stepped foot on the gridiron. So you can't really be like, oh, now this is going to give X amount of value to Marquez Callaway or Deontay Harris or one of these Adam Troutman, the fish man himself. There's really nothing to talk about because Michael Thomas never even touched the field. So if you drafted Michael Thomas, I'm sorry. I'm not surprised at the end of the day, though, because Michael Thomas just seems like something that would happen to him. So thank you guys all so much for watching. If you did end up enjoying, please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below, as well as leaving a like on today's video. It would help us out a ton. I love you guys all so much. I hope that you have a great rest of your guys' day. And as always, goodbye.